So for the community tea of the week, I wanted to talk about joy and grief. And so there's a lot of joy in this season. There's a lot of joy to be had, to be experienced, but our ability to experience joy directly reflects our ability to move through grief. Because I feel like the world that we live in, the world we've always lived in, but specifically right now, what we're experiencing is a lot of collective grief, a lot of the need to hold grief as a community, on a worldly level and then on an individual, smaller community level. I've noticed a lot of grief moving through my community, and I have felt it sitting with me, even if it's not directly related to me. But there's a lot of grief that has been shared with me, heavy experiences that people are going through. And so one of the things that keeps resurfacing for me is this desire to move into community work where I will be in service for people who are moving through grief. And so there's a need to learn how to hold grief and to let it go, to let it move through me instead of holding it within me. And so I felt the need to talk about that today because it's been coming up for maybe the last 2 months. It started with this STEM summer camp that I volunteered with, and I noticed that I ended up in the girls in STEM, and I noticed that they were carrying a lot. They were carrying a lot of heaviness, and they may not have understood that that's what they were feeling. But I took it on. Like, I felt that heaviness that entire week I was there. I had a great experience. I had a joyful experience, and I knew I needed to be there, which is another reason I know I need to move into this work. But I realized that I was taking it on and holding it in my body. And so at this point, for me, my healing looks like mastering these abilities. So if you have this gift to shift energy in a space, to shift energy in a room, to be joy embodied, to be love embodied in spaces, you have to master your ability to not hold on to that grief within your body. And so I think that's one of the things I've always struggled with. When people share things with me, which is often, I hold on to it. And I may not notice that's what it is, but I'm feeling the tightness in my chest. I'm feeling the anxiety. And I'm like, why am I feeling like this? I don't have anything specific going on. I'm in a really joyful place. I have a lot of different things happening and that are going on, and I'm not depressed. I'm not just naturally super anxious right now. So I'm like, what's going on? And so there is this collective grief that I'm feeling. And so there's been this thing for me understanding that the people who do the frontline work in the community of taking care of the people who are really struggling the hardest, struggling the most, going through a lot of different things, how do we take care of them, And so I remember a post about how do we, and one of my friends reminded me of this, who heals the healer. And so I think that is when you go into, mastering to ground yourself, becoming a master at grounding yourself. And I know when you say becoming a master, it sounds like you're perfect, but really for me, it looks like taking a minute to pause and to release, doing what it is that you need to care for yourself, to receive, allow it to pass through you and release it. And so it's like you've identified this great ability to feel things deeply. So I think about empaths, and a lot of us, we shift to removing ourselves from the situation or shutting down or turning it off because it's just too heavy, it's too much. Because you're not just having your experiences, you're having everybody else's experiences too. And so I think that is what's important about learning to transform this energy, how to alchemize it and free yourself from its control. And then there is a responsibility to teach others how to free themselves from it. And so, yeah, I think in order to hold space for others, you have to learn to move through those spaces. And so that's the season I'm in right now, is a lot of learning on how to do that, where I don't have a choice, because there's my emotions are going back and forth. They're going all over the place. And so I'm trying to balance those. And I feel like I'm actively having to mother or parent these emotions that I'm having. So it's like, okay, what are you feeling? Where do you feel it at? What happened today? What happened this week? What do you need to release? What are you holding on to? What part of it is your work and what part of it belongs to someone else? And what part of it, even in the things that belong to someone else, what part of it can you really show up and help them carry that? And what part of it is for them to carry? And so really it just brings me back to, because I also think of caregivers in our community, like our mothers, people who play roles of the mothers in the community, and who nurtures the nurturer, who takes care of those who take care of everyone else. I saw a post that said the ancestors. It was like, who takes care of the oldest child? And it was like the ancestors. And so there's this desire to not only connect spiritually to what is guiding you, to move through grief and those emotions and carrying these spaces for other people and for yourself, but to also lean into what it is that you need. So one of the things I do, I will sit outside. I go home, back home where my family lives, and I sit outside in my sister's backyard, and I just sit in the grass the whole week. The whole week I sit in the grass, or I might find a chair out there and I'll sit and I'll write for the week. I try to keep my load light when I go home. And so I think that it looks like pouring into those spaces for yourself, identifying what that looks like. So if writing is a way that you release, or bringing awareness to a specific topic is a way that you release, you have to allow those to move through you. And I think ultimately it's about grounding yourself to spirit, to the earth, to the things that can hold that heaviness. If you have the ability to see and to know that as humans we're not meant to carry certain things, I think there's a responsibility that comes with learning how to release those things from the body, release those things from your energetic field. And I have not mastered that. I've not learned how to do that, but it's something that I do want to get more into. I know there's yoga for grounding, but I want to be, even when I do that, I want to be more intentional when I show up on the mat of what I am releasing, and being aware of what it is that I'm carrying. And so I think naturally as empaths we move through the world like that, but deciding to move into really a life journey, a calling of serving the community, of being in the community, being with the community, holding space in community, requires us to take that grounding practice, your spiritual practice, your connection to source, to a whole new level. There's a whole new level of protection that's needed. There's a whole new level of guidance that's needed. And so for me, this week is about leaning into that. And so instead of running from those feelings, when I feel that loneliness or that grief come up in my chest, for like, how am I going to hold on to this? How am I going to move through this? How can I support people as they're moving through this? Instead of running away from it, I have to learn to sit with it. And so that's uncomfortable for me, because I feel like I'm sitting with it by myself. But that is part of calling in spirit, calling in God to be with you, calling in whatever is divine to you to help move through that. And so, I don't know, I felt the need to talk about that because I feel like there's a lot collectively. I think with this new sense of awareness, I'm listening a lot more, and I'm listening to what people are telling me. I'm listening to what people are talking about. There may be things going on, but like listening beyond what you see, it really tells you a lot. And people are grieving, and it's on a whole nother level. And I think it's going to continue to be like that for a while. And so as we experience our joy in life, we have to learn how to allow the grief to move through us. And so I think about the herbs that I would use in those times. Ginger, that's something I feel like everybody has access to. Ginger is good with moving through grief or moving it out of your body, releasing whatever needs to flow out of you. So releasing tears, working through family trauma or experiences, family grief. Ella campaign, that one is These are respiratory herbs. Elecampane and mullein are respiratory herbs that help to move the grief out of your body. It brings it up. And so they're ultimately for coughs, so bronchitis, any ailments that are affecting your respiratory system. Mullein and elecampane are really good ones to grab, and thyme is also one that people have access to. But all of these respiratory herbs are going to help to move grief, because that's where we hold grief in our respiratory system. Sometimes you might feel it in your chest, but if you find yourself getting sick a lot, getting colds, respiratory issues, there's a lot of grief that's sitting in your lungs or sitting in your body that you may need to release, you may need to work through. And so those are some of the herbs to lean on to. I think I'm actually going to make a blend for myself of ginger, mullein, rose petals, and maybe some calendula, because calendula is really good with things like seasonal depression, bringing in joy, in the lymph nodes. So I think sometimes you have those respiratory issues, sometimes you get the swollen lymph nodes, and things like that. So yeah, I feel like I said that right. I hope I did. But yeah, that's the tea of the week, is learning to experience your joy, learning to allow your joy to come in by allowing the grief to move through you. And not only so you can experience the joy, but so you can continue to do the work, because you've been called to it, because you have a gift. You have a special ability to hold space for people, and to help them through these stages of life that they may not see a way out of. So I think about your therapists, I think about teachers, I think about nurses, I think about doctors, I think about caregivers, and I just think about mothers and parents, and just people who hold space for other people on a consistent basis. That one friend in the group who everybody goes to, or sister that everybody goes to. We don't always think about what we're giving them in those seasons, but I think they're in that space, in that community, for a reason. So I wouldn't say, no, don't call them, don't go to them. That may be their gift. I think the call for those caregivers is to, or those healers in the community, is to learn to alchemize that energy, to shift the energy, to help people move through the energy without holding on to it. So yeah, I think that's what I got today. I woke up with that on my heart, so I'm still in my low voice, my morning voice, but I wanted to share that today, and I hope that's helpful in some sort of way. And yeah, feel free to leave a comment or let me know how that sat with you, or if you have any more questions about the herbal part of it, I can share more information, especially about the elecampane and the mullein, because I feel like that's not one that people widely know. I didn't know about it until I got into herbalism, but of course ginger and thyme are household items that we cook with. So yeah, I hope everybody has a good week.